JP, good to see you. How you doing? Evening. First one in today. Evening, Miles. How's things? Autistic, good to see you as well. How's things with you? How's everyone's weekend? I'm just trying to see if the live show came up or if there's still problems with Restream. Yep, there's still problems with Restream. So live show only comes up if you click on my profile picture on X. There's some difficulty still going on between Restream and X. It's no longer coming up as a post. They're still doing some maintenance work, I think. Hello, Miles. Good to see you, brother. T, good to see you. So how you doing? How's things with you? Just like always, I've got coffee in one cup and water in the other. I also hope you had a great weekend, mate. Adi, good to see you. So how you doing? Hope you had a good weekend as well. Comatose, good to see you. So how you doing? Okay, let's do intro, disclaimer, and what we're going to talk about tonight's live. And by that time, everyone should be tuned in for the first part of the live show. So, welcome to the CMF Live if you're watching this for the first time ever. The CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. long time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI politics, and regulations. Pretty much everything you need to know about regarding the world completely transforming into this digital sector. We also do Q&As in this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. And also the disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. This is also episode 442 of the CMF live show. Now, before we start off on tonight's live, let me just give you a little breakdown of what we're going to go through. We're going to go through essentially some dates of essentially what's going to be happening on particular dates inside the crypto sector regarding essentially the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, essentially the White House, reports that are going to be coming out. That's the first part of the live show. Then we're going to go through news regarding essentially what's happening on an international base in terms of the crypto sector. We're going to talk about essentially Hong Kong, Russia, and so on. We're also going to talk about tonight's live regarding some interesting perspective that's coming out. One from essentially Mike McGlone, and the other one is coming out from MicroStrategy to maybe rebuttal what he said. We're also going to go through news on tonight's live regarding the matters of essentially what's happening in the UAE, more international news inside the crypto sector. We're going to go through news on tonight's live also regarding Silicon Valley and what's happening in terms of, Web3 and so on. And we're going to go through news on tonight's live regarding some security alerts that are happening right now inside the crypto sector, which everybody should be, essentially warned about, you could say, to protect your crypto assets, because as the crypto space grows bigger, there's a lot of essentially scamming that's happening online. There's a lot of thieves also, and there's a lot of break-ins. France has become an absolute hotspot for essentially breaking into people who have cryptos houses and essentially taking them for ransom, and it's been all over the news so far. We're also going to talk about tonight's live regarding XRP, as we always do. Now, before essentially we go through any of these news topics, the first one is the dates that are essentially going to be happening, what's going to be coming out. Let's go start the conversation first, and then we'll go straight into the first news. Also, CMF members, can you please essentially click the three dots at the top of the live show and then essentially click share the profile, because that is the only way to essentially share the live show. There is no other way for the time being. Restream is still having some difficulties connecting essentially to right now, essentially connecting to X. So if you can, say members, click the three buttons at the top, three dots at the top, click share the profile. That's the only way to share the live show. Now, let's go back inside the comment section before we go through the first news. Hello, Miles and CMF commenters. Good to see you. How you doing? Jason, evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you, Jason. How you doing? Now, crypto week ahead. So, Hive and essentially Riot earnings, Fed minutes, and the White House yield summit. There's quite a bit happening essentially as we go along. So, the crypto market is essentially bracing for a high stakes week that could break the current calm before the storm essentially narrative. According to CoinDesk, the upcoming days will feature a critical mix essentially of corporate earnings from the mining sector and macro signals also from the Federal Reserve that will dictate whether Bitcoin can reclaim its $70,000 essentially psychological level. So here is essentially number one, the mining sector of the crypto space. And what's essentially the health looking like right now? Hive and Riot earnings. The market will get a pulse check on the industry essentially layer of the Bitcoin networks as Hive Digital and Riot platforms report their quarter four, essentially 2025 earnings. The hold strategy versus the AI pivot. Investors are essentially watching to see if Hive continues its successful pivot into a high performance AI computing program, a move that has helped shield the company from mining difficulty spikes. Now, we've talked about in the past few days regarding Bitcoin mining companies slowly turning into AI data centers because that is the only way they're going to be making essentially any sort of income for themselves. Also, operational cost. For Riot, the focus will be on energy efficiency and also hash rate expansions, following Cathie Wood's thesis on essentially the chaos driven by AI, and analysts are also looking for clues on how the miners can essentially integrate with the evolving energy grids to remain profitable. Now, one of the downfalls of Bitcoin, as there are many downfalls essentially, but one of the downfalls is the high energy costs. Hence why a lot of these Bitcoin companies, mining companies, are turning into AI data centers. It's just a lot more profitable for them than to stay as an AI data center. Now, two, the macro signals inside the market space. The Fed rate essential decision minutes. The release of the minutes from the latest Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, meeting is essentially the week's biggest macro landmine so far. Hawkish versus essentially dovish, with the incoming Fed chair, essentially Kevin Walsh, taking a firm stance on inflation. The minutes will reveal how many members support keeping essentially the rates higher for longer. Impact on Bitcoin, as noted by essentially Standard Chartered Bank today, a hawkish surprise could essentially trigger a flush out towards $50,000, while any hints of a mid-year cut could potentially be the catalyst for the $2 trillion essentially topic that BlackRock has been keep on talking about since the Hong Kong consensus event. Number three, the White House Yield Summit. That's also still going on. Perhaps the most significant event for the utility era, which is essentially known as this year, is the scheduled meeting at the White House between crypto advocacy groups and traditional bank representatives. The stablecoin compromise. This meeting aims to resolve the yield war surrounding Clarity Act if a deal is struck along regulated stablecoins to offer rewards without being classified as illegal deposits. It would also remove a massive barrier for institutional adoption. Number four, technical outlook. The $68,000 pivot. Bitcoin's price is entering essentially the week trapped in the tight range, a break above $69,500 could signal an end to essentially de-risking phase, while close below $65,000 could also open the door to a bearish target set by Standard Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank is the only bank essentially so far, it's the only bank so far giving out essentially perspectives that essentially are quite negative, you could say, but they're not saying it's, this is how this year is going to play out. They're saying we just have to reach that $50,000 target before we can bounce up. Whereas JP Morgan's analyst, BlackRock's analyst, Goldman Sachs's analyst, Franklin Templeton's analyst, and even Swift's analysts have a different perspective on the market space. Their perspective is completely the opposite of what Standard Chartered is. Ethereum. If ETH remains the institutional essentially favorite following BlackRock's Uniswap governance move, traders are watching to see if ETH can decouple from BTC's volatility based on its growing real-world asset utility. Now, here's an interesting factor. A long time ago, nobody would have talked about decoupling from Bitcoin inside a crypto space. It was more like everybody follows Bitcoin up or down. Times have changed, and this decoupling phrase is being used more often now by everybody. It could be people inside the crypto space, it could be crypto CEOs, or it could be banks and essentially major institutions, all of them now talking about decoupling from Bitcoin. The upcoming essentially 2026 theme. Wait and see essentially is what's being said right now. The upcoming essentially week represents a convergence essentially of all major stories of February 2026. The political fight in essentially DC, the institutional expansion of Wall Street, and the macroeconomic pressure of the Fed. As Coinbase shares also recently jumped in anticipation of a market bottom, the next 7 days will determine if that bet was premature or the start of a next major bull run. They're saying within the next 7 days, we should get essentially a signal of are we going to be going up or are we going to be going down one last time to touch $50,000 Bitcoin and a $1,400 essentially price target for Ethereum and then the market rebounds, and that's it. That's pretty much your last time to buy. So within 7 days, keep that in your calendars. We should essentially get some sort of a signal inside the market space, up or down within 7 days. Now, moving on essentially from the events that have been happening so far, that they're going to be happening moving forward, to Hong Kong. Let's go to some international news for the crypto space. Before we talk about Hong Kong, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then straight into the Hong Kong news. Let's see where we're at. We were at here. As I previously, this is live, just like always. If you have any questions, go for inside the comment section. Comment. No, we were here, I think. Even Miles of CMF. Jason, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Funky brother. Good evening, Professor Miles and the rest of this family. Let's go, Funky. Just like the live and retweeted it too. Thank you so much, Funky, for that. CMF members, if you haven't, as I said previously, because Restream and X are having difficulties connecting to each other, the only way to retweet this live show is by clicking on three dots at the top and then click share to profile. So if everybody could do that, just takes 5 seconds, 3 dots, retweet, essentially, share to profile. That's the only way to retweet this live show. Funky, thank you so much for retweeting it with the 3 dots and share to profile. And for anybody else who has done it, thank you so much as well. If you haven't, take 5 seconds to do it, please. Hi, Miles, and essentially, hi, Miles. When we see, how are you been, Miles? I'll be doing good, Funky. How you been? Johnny said, hi, when we see boron, maybe March or April. It's possibly looking like that, yes. Morning, Miles of CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing, Shelly? How you been? Miles, what happened to those 8 behemoth institutions that were going to invest into Japan? They haven't invested yet, but their announcements and essentially their approvals have been processed, but they haven't made their move yet. And maybe they have. The only issue is we can't tell if they're buying. I'll give you an example. Goldman Sachs suddenly revealed to the entire world their massive portfolio inside the crypto space. Nobody knew Goldman Sachs was buying essentially under the not under the table, but very quietly. It's not that Goldman Sachs was essentially just buying as well. It's their client base that was buying through Goldman Sachs. But it was a very quiet move. And they brought tremendous amount. We're talking billions in terms of essentially price point. Same thing could be happening inside the Japanese market space by these 8 behemoths. We just don't know about it. And then suddenly the news comes out. So a Goldman Sachs news came out of their their massive portfolio of 1.2 essentially $1 billion portfolio. Same thing can happen on Japanese market space as well. Suddenly the news comes out that essentially they've been buying while everybody else has been dumping on the market space for the time being. We just don't know yet. Even Miles and CMF. How was your weekend, Joe? It was good. How was your weekend, Joe? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? UK to implement Islamic law protecting Shira. Starmer doing. I don't know what Starmer is doing, but by the looks of it, it is, Starmer's days are being numbered in terms of a political point of view. We're going to be having a re-election inside the United Kingdom, and people are definitely going to be voting the opposite of Labour. The best way to put it. I don't think anybody's going to be voting Labour, to be fairly honest. Now, what else? Good to see you. How you doing, brother? How you been? Hong Kong. Hong Kong regulators approve Victory FinTech VDX license first since June. So, Hong Kong essentially Securities and Futures Commission, SFC, granted a formal virtual license trading platform, VATP, license to Victory FinTech. Why is this relevant to anybody inside the crypto space? Well, it shows that Hong Kong is still trying to essentially broaden their range of stablecoin companies inside the crypto sector, or developers, or proven developers, or even approving essentially other sectors of the crypto space, while we still have Democrats and Republicans going back to back, essentially trying to process the first law they ever passed, which was essentially the Genius Act. So, Hong Kong is actually moving at a rapid pace, and Hong Kong is no longer trying to compete with the US in terms of becoming the capital of cryptocurrencies. No, Hong Kong is trying to compete with the UAE because they see the UAE as their competition. Because while the US has slowed down in some sort of a manner, still going back and forward in terms of Genius Act or Clarity Act and so on, while as the UAE is just moving, essentially expanding day by day inside the crypto sector, and Hong Kong sees the UAE as their competition now. And that's why they're processing licenses again. This marks a major milestone as the first such essentially approval since June 2025, bringing the total number of fully licensed crypto firms in the city essentially to 12. So far, 12 crypto firms have approval to operate in Hong Kong and essentially have access to the Asian market space, which is a tremendously huge market space. BlackRock talked about it. Just 1% from the Asian market space in terms of liquidity for the crypto sector is about $2 trillion, just 1%. So, key details of this approval. Breaking the license drought, Victory Fintech VDX, an affiliate of a publicly listed financial services firm, Victory Securities 8540, is the first company to receive a full license in 8 months. The long gap reflects the SFC's notoriously strict vetting process and its high bar regulatory regime, which is actually a good thing as well because it means that they're making sure the companies they're approving aren't scam companies or later on going to be turning into rug pull companies. Expanded capabilities. The license allows VDX to operate a digital asset trading platform for both institutions and retail clients. This move essentially follows the SFC's recent guidance, allowing licensed brokers to provide virtual asset margin financing and the introduction of a framework for essentially futures and contracts for professional investors. Streamlined process. The approval is seen as a success for the SFC's revamped, essentially, motive licensing process introduced in early 2025. This model allows for a single external assessment post implementation, overseen directly by the regulator to resolve compliance and issues more efficiently. Now, the street contents Hong Kong versus global hubs. Liquidity over quantity. In a speech at the Consensus Hong Kong essentially event, the SFC Executive Director Eric emphasized that 2026 is the year of market quality and liquidity rather than a rapid increase in the number of exchanges. The focus is on building investor confidence through regulated on chain infrastructure, which I think is a brilliant way to look at the crypto market space because then you're making sure the crypto market space grows slow, but on a mature level. And it's not just everybody coming through the door getting approval, and later on those companies can go bust. We've all seen inside the crypto space, FTX, one of the biggest crypto companies out there, that completely went bust, ruined the crypto space. So it's nice, that Hong Kong is taking it seriously, trying to make sure the crypto market space is safe, secure, and that it's growing at a nice pace, at a foundational pace as well. Wall Street synergy. The approval coincides with a surge in interest from traditional finance, with Goldman Sachs disclosing the $2 billion in crypto exposure and BlackRock engaging with DeFi protocols like Uniswap. Hong Kong is a bridge for institutional capital to the Asian market space, which it definitely is. But so is Singapore, to be fairly honest, and so is Japan, you could say as well. But Hong Kong definitely plays a massive role in terms of liquidity that could be added to the crypto space on a massive institutional level, because as China is so restricted on paper in terms of essentially investing into crypto, mining Bitcoin, or getting involved in stable coins, whereas Hong Kong is this gateway for Chinese businessmen or women to get involved inside the crypto space. Departures and consolidations. While 12 platforms are now licensed, including Hashkey, OSL, HKVax, and Bullish, many global giants like OKX Exchange and Bybit previously withdrew their applications, citing the extreme strictness of Hong Kong's requirements. Which again, I guess as I said, it's not a bad thing. They're trying to make sure that they're secure any platform that gets through, because Hong Kong is a gateway for the Asian market space. So, what's next for the Hong Kong crypto market space? How is this beneficial for you inside the Western market space or the Middle Eastern market space when it comes to the crypto sector? Stablecoin ordinance. The market is now awaiting the first set of licensed stablecoin issuers from Hong Kong's monetary authority, expected to be announced later this year. Custody and advisory regulators are planning to submit a draft ordinance for crypto advisory services sometime in 2026 to further professionalize the sector. The licensing of Victory Fintech VDX signals that the SFC is finally ready to move through its essentially backlog of deemed to be licensed applicants, potentially paving the way for a more robust, liquid, and institutional grade digital asset market in the region. This is incredible news, honestly, coming out of Hong Kong. That one, they're taking the crypto market space seriously. Two, they're trying to make sure it's secure and whoever they essentially give a license to. And three, they're still expanding and still trying to compete with the UAE. And four, it is genuinely the only doorway open for the Chinese market space to get involved inside the crypto sector. And as I said, one more time, as BlackRock said, just 1%, it's $2 trillion of liquidity for the crypto market space from the Asian market space. Now, moving on from Hong Kong, still trying to compete, still trying to open its doors to crypto, to an interesting battle, you could say, pretty much. Two articles came out today, two very different perspectives, but on similar lines. One saying that Bitcoin could go to $10,000. The second one, essentially from MicroStrategy, saying that even if Bitcoin goes to $8,000, MicroStrategy will still not sell its Bitcoins. So here it is. Markets warning recession. Recession fears are growing as MicroStrategy fortifies essentially its position. Today, the digital asset market was hit essentially, in February 2026, the digital asset market space was hit by a wave of sobering analysis. While Mike essentially McGlone warns that Bitcoin's recent weakness is essentially a canary in the coal mine for the US recession, MicroStrategy has signaled extreme resilience, claiming it can survive a crash to low as $8,000. So here is the perspectives. Bloomberg Intelligence senior macro strategist Mike McGlone issued a stark warning via CoinDesk, suggesting that Bitcoin's failure to sustain its high is essentially a precursor to a broader economic downturn. The canary in the coal mine. McGlone essentially argues that Bitcoin, often the fastest horse in the race, is now leading the way down. He views essentially the recent slide as a sign that easy money era is over and the Federal Reserve restrictive policies are finally catching up with the real economy. The trap. Contrasting with Cathie Wood's view of good deflation, McGlone fears a debt inflationary spiral. He suggests that if Bitcoin continues to struggle despite its digital gold narrative, it indicates that liquidity is being sucked out of the system at an unsustainable rate. Recession essentially inevitability. McGlone believes that the US is essentially tilting towards a recession in 2026, and that the crypto market's current de-risking phase is the most honest indicator of the coming storm. So this is a very different perspective coming from Bloomberg, because typically we don't get perspective coming in from Mike McGlone. We get perspective coming in from essentially Eric and James from essentially Bloomberg, the two specialist ETF analysts, and they're always positive essentially of what's going to be happening next, and they cheer for the crypto space of how much has grown since day one. Very different perspective from Bloomberg this time around. Now, on that news, essentially, the announcement is essentially what Mike made of where he thinks Bitcoin could go down to, and that the US might be heading towards some sort of a recession, and that Bitcoin's narrative of digital gold isn't really holding up once again. Strategy came out also today, made an announcement, and I'm guessing it's to rebuttal what Mike said. So, Strategy said $8,000 survival plan. And every time we do get massive negative news on Bitcoin, everybody normally thinks to themselves, I think Strategy will sell its Bitcoin this time around. It's just the first thing that pops into your head. You get any negative news on Bitcoin, you see Bitcoin, dump on a huge level. Instantly, if you're inside a crypto space, you think towards Strategy. You think, is Strategy about to dump their Bitcoins to essentially, de-risk, you could say? And, well, here's Strategy's response to the Bloomberg response. In a definite response to market bears, Strategy, MSTR, the world's largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, outlined its strategic, essentially, safety net during a recent investor update reported by also CoinDesk. The $8,000 floor. MicroStrategy executives stated that the company's balance sheet is structured to withstand a catastrophic drop Bitcoin's price to $8,000. Even if Bitcoin goes to $8,000, not saying it will, but even if Bitcoin goes to $8,000, Strategy will still not sell, and they'll still be able to survive. In this significant cushion, considering current prices are near $68,000. A key part of the survival strategy involves equalizing essentially its debt. Instead of being forced to sell Bitcoin to pay back essentially bondholders, a death spiral scenario, the company has the option to convert its debt into equity MSTR shares. This move essentially preserves its hold position even in extreme volatility. Despite the recession fears voiced by McGlone, MicroStrategy continues to see the strong demand for its Bitcoin-backed notes, suggesting that institutional smart money is still willing to bet on the company's long-term leveraged Bitcoin strategy plan. So, this creates a fascinating tug-of-war scenario in the market space. The bears, McGlone and Standard Chartered, warning that a 25 to 30% flush out or a full blown recession is coming, which could drag Bitcoin down significantly, while the bulls and the strategists like essentially Saylor and Kathy Woods are viewing the current dip as a cleansing and positioning for the future where Bitcoin is the bedrock of global economy. I wouldn't say in any sort of a way that essentially, Bitcoin is, the global, essentially the backbone of the global economy in any sort of a way. I've always said, in my point of view, I see XRP as essentially the global, backbone of a financial economy, 100%. When it comes to any other sectors, you can maybe, when it comes to gaming and so on inside the crypto sector, there'll be other titles. But if it comes to essentially money, XRP takes the ranks by a mile. If anybody thinks the other way around, that Bitcoin is better than XRP when it comes to finance, I'm sorry, there's just no comparison whatsoever. Absolutely no comparison. As a company, Ripple is growing day by day. Their valuation is somewhere between 40 to $50 billion as a valuation for their company, which is ridiculously impressive, to be fairly honest. And the footsteps Ripple's taken so far, essentially expanding in the financial sector, pushing their way in, you could even say, by acquiring billion-dollar financial firms to push their way inside the financial sector. I mean, it's hugely impressive. And then those companies that Ripple purchased started making their own partnerships. You look at Metaco, who has a partnership essentially with HSBC Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and the list goes on inside the Asian market space. And then you look at also the partnerships they made in the Middle East for themselves. And then you look at the companies that they brought out of essentially, in the United Kingdom, Hidden Road and so on, changing their names, and then the licensing essentially Ripple has applied for. There's just absolutely no comparison when it comes to Bitcoin and XRP of who takes the crown for the financial sector. It's XRP by a mile. And there's no other way to look at it. So, as essentially what's been suggested here by McGlone and what's essentially suggested by Saylor, they're going head to head. Saylor is saying even if we go down to 8,000, we'll survive. McGlone saying Bitcoin could go down to 10,000. Standard saying Bitcoin could go down to 50,000. Kathy Woods is saying Bitcoin is, this is just this calm before the storm scenario. All of them, their outcomes are very, very similar. And their outcomes are essentially the ending is all positive. It's just what's happening right now. Are we going to go down one more time before we go up? Or is this just, we're going to slowly start seeing an upside instead? The Bears and the Bulls are really going at it, you could pretty much say right now. Before we go through the next news, we're going to go a little bit more international news again inside the crypto sector. We're going to talk about Russia next. Before we talk about Russia, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there. And then we go straight into the next news. So let's see where we were at inside the comment section. We were at here. Being good, thanks. All well. Over there, Miles Woodhouse, good to see you. How you doing? Good to hear that. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? Can someone tell me what is good amount to hold XRP next time? Whatever you can, Johnny. At the end of the day, it is your own budget. What up, Miles and CMF? Hope all is well. Ray, good to see you. How you doing? Is Iran a Christian country? Is Iran a Christian country? Multiple religions in Iran. We have essentially Christians, Catholic, Judaism, Islam. We have essentially Zarathustra, which was the first religion in the world. There's so many religions in Iran. Hello, Miles and CMF. I hope I had a good day. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Good to see you as well, Scott. How you doing? Join Miles's Substacks. They are interesting and free facts. Let's go. If anybody still hasn't checked out my Substacks, I release one article per day on Substacks talking about how the world is changing and, backing it up essentially with actual evidence of how the world is really changing. So maybe once you go and check it out, go and check it out. And, it's pinned on my X profile, CMF members, if you still haven't seen it. Hi, Miles. Good to see you, Michael. How you doing? How you today? I'm doing great. Good to see you. Good to see you, well, Michael. How you doing? Hi, Miles. It's CMF Stormy. Good to see you. How you doing? Ray, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Absolutely amazing, brother. Thank you so much. Let's go, Miles and CMF. Thank you so much for the donation, Ray. Is a big problem for the UK? Yes, it is. Miles, what is it? Hi, Miles and CMF family. Let's go for facts news. Good to see you guys. Carl, good to see you as well. How you doing? Miles, I think folks have been truly sleeping on XRP for all the wrong reasons. You have always said the contracts and the contacts, not just numbers, facts. Always, when I've talked about XRP, I've talked about their vision, I've talked about their contracts, I've talked about their licensings, and that's what matters at the end of the day. It's not about price action. Price action will come. But what matters, as I've said multiple times, it's a strong foundation. You want a strong foundation that essentially not just based on essentially the what XRP is doing, but also the regulatory foothold as well. Where good news can pick the market space up and also dump it a few days later. But a strong foundation based on regulations and licensings, any crypto project that has these licensings and is beneficial regarding these regulatory essentially footholds, then it's going to do exceptionally well. And XRP is one of those projects. It's just going to do exceptionally well in a regulatory environment by a mile compared to anybody else. Thank you so much, CMF members, for the emojis. I realize why you put the emojis. Thank you so much for the fire emojis and rocket emojis. Good on you, all of you, for catching on why you should put emojis. Thank you so much. Did you say, Miles, we could find out in the next 7 days which way we're going in terms of the markets? Yes. It's not what I said. It's according to essentially the macroeconomic data that's coming out and the geopolitical tensions and everything else that's playing in. Within the next 7 days, they're saying we should get some sort of a signal. It's either going to go up or it's going to go down one last time. Absolutely correct. Let's go. Either way, it's great to be with you all again. Let's go, Thompson. Geez, if BTC went down to 10K, what would the alts go to XRP to 30 cents again? Well, if XRP goes to 30 cents, you know for a fact, if you don't buy that, you're a fool. Even if you don't, I completely understand if you don't have any more money to invest or so on inside the market space. And none of this is financial advice. But if XRP ever goes down to 30 cents, I would personally sell my lung to buy XRP if it ever goes down to 30 cents because we know what's going to happen next. But we're hoping before ever Bitcoin touches anywhere near those numbers, we have that decoupling scenario, which I've been saying for the past 3 years that we need to decouple. And we can only do that with the correct regulations in place. And some may argue that XRP has, it's regulated. XRP is for a fact, it is regulated. But the issue is the institutions that are still going to be operating gray areas. They need that regulatory, essentially, green light as well. So even if XRP has a regulatory green light, the institutions also need that regulatory green light as well to be on the same level. Miles, is it a good idea to be living in the UK or leaving and moving in other places? Signed up for, okay, no, I missed out a few comments. Okay. I think Michael Saylor will have to sell well before 8,000. It's not all his money and has been invested in BTC, which is true. It's not all of his money. It is strategies investors, their client base who have been you could say investing in some sort of a way. So yes, he might get pressure to sell, but maybe he's figured that out as well. And maybe they have some sort of cash stashed, you could say, that could help them out. Signed up for your articles. Great content, Miles. Thank you so much, Susie, for signing up to Substacks and reading my articles. Miles, is a good idea to be living in the UK or leaving and moving other places. The UK is not the best place for investments. It's not just someone like me saying it. People at a much more larger scale. Massive CEOs who are all British companies. They're all moving out. They're all moving out to the UAE, and it's because of tax reasons and so many other reasons as well. And some may call them traitors for leaving, but then you would do the same. If you were a company CEO, if you had your own company, you were a CEO, and you were making your money, and the government turns around to you and says they want more from you, then you're going to get frustrated and then you're going to move out. And if anybody calls you a traitor for not paying your country's taxes, I would fully understand. I mean, who wants to pay taxes in reality? Nobody likes the idea of paying taxes, and nobody likes the idea of paying essentially, extraordinary taxes, you could say, in some cases. So I understand why so many millionaires and billionaires left the United Kingdom. I understand why Revolut Bank, a British bank, a neo-British bank, is leaving the city of London and shifting over to the UAE. I fully understand. Anybody would do the exact same thing in their shoes, essentially. People would say, if I was a millionaire, I would give out my money. If I was a billionaire or a millionaire, I would give out my money and feed the world. You can only do that up to a certain extent, and then you start to realize that, essentially your money could have done elsewhere, created more jobs essentially, and so on. And you can't do that if you're going to keep on giving it away. You could pretty much say you need money to make money. And people who don't have money, I'm not saying I'm a millionaire or a billionaire in any sort of a way. I'm not a millionaire and I'm not a billionaire. Just put that out there as well. But I could see it from both perspectives. One perspective sees it as, if I'm a millionaire, billionaire, I would feed the world. The other side says, well, you can only do that up to a certain extent, because at some point you got to start creating jobs. Otherwise, for how long are you just going to feed people and essentially get people lazy? And then they're just expecting more money from you. And that's what's happening essentially when it comes to British government. They're just squeezing the life out of these companies. And the idea of going net zero to save the planet in some sort of a way, it's not ridiculous, but the issue is the UK will achieve nothing from going net zero, while you have countries like China who are, causing quite a lot of harm, you could say, up to a certain extent, to the world in terms of, what they're producing. And the idea of, net zero and so on was a scam up to a certain extent, yes. How it all started, completely yes. But how it should have went down, it could have went down correctly, but it didn't. Anyways, put that to one side. But yeah, I would definitely leave as well. And so would you. And if you say you wouldn't, and you're willing as a company CEO to pay 60%, 70% of all revenues to the government, you are absolutely talking lies. If you were a company CEO and you're paying ridiculous amount of tax, you would do the exact same thing, which is leave the country. So the question of, is the UK a good place to be in? No, definitely not. A long time ago, it definitely was. Now times have definitely changed, and there are other countries out there that will treat you better as a company CEO. So not only are they squeezing the life of CEOs, but they're also pushing, essentially, they're also not getting investment in. Nobody wants to invest in the UK. And by nobody, I mean the majority don't want to invest into the UK, because what's the point? High taxes and the idea of net zero makes it on habitat for AI data centers as well. Chinese New Year. No, wait, okay, we missed out more comments. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing there? I'm doing great, Callie. Good to see you. How you doing? How's things? That is a freaking dream. If XRP goes to 30 cents, fire sale if it does. Yep. More of Shiba Inu and lunacy as well. Chinese New Year, year of the horse, money. It's time money to be made starting this year. It's true. Yep. It is Chinese New Year, as Shelly said. And it is the year of the horse, and it's the year of money. Is that why BlackRock, you could say, said, for the first time ever, BlackRock's analyst mentioning $2 trillion, investment, 1% of the Asian market space and so on could bring so much liquidity towards the crypto sector. $2 trillion, just 1%. So maybe that's why BlackRock was talking about just a couple of days ago regarding the Asian market space, because it's the year of money. Hong Kong is the one pretty much leading it inside the Asian market space, you could say. It is definitely the year of money, yeah. It's the year of horse. Facts, absolute facts, what Shelly has said. Dang, I might do something strangers a little change. Change. If XRP goes to 30 cents, bro. You gotta make that money somehow. If XRP goes to 30 cents, if you want to do something strange for a little change, can someone explain what I can do with holding XRP and where I can make money out of it? You can earn yield on XRP if you wanted to. Um, who cares what people think? You know better. That is just your moral obligation to do better for yourself. I would leave Canada myself. Let's go, Thompson. Any news on the best thing to do to post appreciate yet, Miles? Not so far. The tax system is far too exploited. I agree 100%. Miles Brad Girlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, expressed his ambition to see a crypto company reach a valuation of $1 trillion. What do you think about that? The idea of a crypto company reaching $1 trillion, or a company like Ripple reaching $1 trillion, it's very plausible. For Ripple to reach $1 trillion valuation, why not? I think out of all the crypto companies out there, all the crypto foundations out there, the only one that could actually reach a price point of that is Ripple. Again, by a mile, because they're just so far ahead. You see, as I explained a long time ago as well, the majority of the crypto space is just developers and foundations that are trying to push their project out there. And it's more like, all these crypto projects are standing in the same queue, except for XRP, but all these crypto projects are standing in the exact same queue, going pick me, test me, and so on, to the behemoths out there, Goldman Sachs, Franklin Templeton, Citi, Swift, essentially JP Morgan, BlackRock, and so on, Morgan Stanley. They're just going, test me out, test me out. It's just a bunch of developers and foundations inside the crypto space, and they have to wait in line to be tested, to be used, and so on. Whereas Ripple doesn't have to, wait in the same queue as the rest of the crypto space and go and test me, and use me. Ripple could just, essentially buy out $1 billion financial organization and push the XRP ledger into it. Or essentially they go out and acquire licenses for Ripple, which again essentially helps the XRP ledger to grow in that sense too. And for the longest time, people said XRP and Ripple are two different things, and they don't essentially, there's no attachments between the Ripple is one thing, XRP is another thing. And for the longest time, I said also that it's really not essentially two different things, you could say pretty much. And these days with Brad or Monica Long coming out and saying, XRP is the heartbeat of Ripple, shuts down any argument people would have had against the idea of Ripple is one thing, XRP is another thing. That complete foolishness should just go away from the market space. For all these, influencers that were XRP haters and keep on saying for years, telling people inside the XRP sector, Ripple is one thing, XRP is another thing. Well, that argument went to absolute shit after Brad and Monica Long kept on saying back to back. XRP is essentially the heartbeat of Ripple's, essentially, footsteps inside this financial sector. Everything goes back to the XRP. Everything goes back to the XRP. Everything goes back to the XRP ledger. So based on that, essentially, Ripple, it's just miles apart. Honestly, they don't have to stand in the same queue. They can push their way inside the financial sector. They're not foundations or a bunch of developers. There's an actual company, a 40 to $50 billion company, pushing the XRP ledger inside essentially inside the financial sector. It's miles different to anything else out there inside the crypto sector. Miles. So regarding Brad saying that, definitely Ripple's the only company that could achieve that. Carbon tax is another fraud. Just steals more money from its citizens. Yes, I agree 100%. The idea of carbon tax is just basically charging people for oxygen inside of London. In London, they said if you drive an electric car, you don't have to pay essentially ULEZ. And you don't have to pay congestion because you're not really polluting central London because you're driving an electric car. And everybody went out, not everybody, but a lot of people went out and brought electric cars because you don't have to pay congestion to drive into city, to drive into the center of London. And well, that went out the window. Now they're saying essentially, even if you drive an electric car, you're still paying congestion charge. So what was the point of congestion charge? The whole point of congestion was essentially to reduce traffic in central and reduce pollution in central as well. And then they introduced ULEZ to again reduce pollution inside central as well. And I told everyone, buy an electric car, save the planet, and you don't have to pay money to go into Central. But now they're saying, even if you have an electric car, you're still paying money to go to Central. So the whole idea is just one big pyramid scheme to start with. They're just scamming everybody. They're charging you to breathe oxygen if you want to go to Central London with your car. Even if you drive an electric car, which was the whole argument of saving the planet. Facts. So regarding Comtax, yeah, 100%, it's one big scam. Governments of the earth just reckless spend and lavish themselves with expensive gifts. Yes, it's true. Unfortunately, the people that we elect to lead us are not the people that should be leading us. They're not even the people that should be leading anyone, to be fairly honest. I mean, there are one or two essential leaders out there I see potentially, that care about their country, they care about their nation, even if the majority of the nation don't see that they're actually trying to achieve something good, you could say, or the minority doesn't see it. There are a few leaders out there, but the majority are absolute, morons. Easiest way to put it. Trump, in my point of view, he's done actually quite well leading the United States in the right way. As many might not see that way, or some might not see that way. He has done quite a bit, very different to compared to the last administration, which was essentially half asleep and selling the entire country away to China, you could pretty much say. Poland's leader, I think, that man is doing exceptional work. He's standing, on his ground, and he's not letting immigration take over his country and ruin it into the ground. the Italian essentially leader, prime minister as well. She's doing incredible work, my point of view. There's few leaders out there that are doing very good work for their countries, even if the people of that country don't see it. But the majority of leaders around the world, absolutely horrendous. Facts. Lots of fireworks out here in Vietnam celebrating New Year's fireworks. Let's go, Ray. Grayscale head of product and research also said advisors are consistently asked by their clients about XRP. It's the second most talked about asset behind BTC. I mean, that's also incredible news as well. That Grayscale clients, thank you, Shelley, for sharing that. That Grayscale essentially clients are essentially saying that XRP is the second, XRP is what they're looking for straight after Bitcoin. It just shows you, how far XRP has come. And the reason why XRP seems much more of a viable buy than anything else, licensing. When XRP got sued by the SEC, they didn't just go sit in the corner and cry about it. They went international. They started acquiring licenses from Singapore, from Japan, partnering with Japanese companies, licensed in Hong Kong, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the list just goes on. Grace, lol, do strange things for some change. And then upside down pineapple could be the answer. What make the bull run in 7 days? It's not a bull run 7 days. It's just a signal of where the market could go in 7 days. Is what we essentially is what's being suggested right now. I know I'm just joking around. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I do not mean any harm to anyone. Like you said on Stacks, it's behind the scenes where it's all happening. Facts. If anybody still hasn't read my Substacks, if you do get time, CMF members or anybody out there new that's watching this live show, my Substacks are, they always get released at 12:30 p.m. UK time, which is around 7:30 a.m. Essentially Eastern time in the US. Go and check them out. I'm telling everybody what's actually happening behind the scenes because the majority of the crypto market space, from the retail section, they only get to see what's happening on the scene and they get frustrated when they look at the price of these assets, not realizing that there's an absolute brilliant foundation, you could say, that's being built behind the sidelines from all these behemoths out there. There's so much happening, which I share with you on these live shows of what's actually happening behind the scenes, and it's backed by evidence. So, like you said on my Substacks, it's behind the scenes where it's all happening. Absolute facts. Shelly, let's go. Miles, what do you think of Indian leader Modi? No perspective, I'll be honest on him whatsoever. Now, Russia. Russia's crypto surge daily turnover hits $650 million. So, the Russian Ministry of Finance revealed that the country's daily cryptocurrency turnover has surged past $650 million. This report, highlighted by Coindesk, underscores a massive expansion in Russia's digital asset activity as the nation aggressively integrates crypto into its national and international economic strategy. Bypassing sanctions, a significant portion of this turnover is attributed to businesses using digital assets for cross border settlements. As traditional banking channels remain restricted, crypto has transitioned from retail hobby to a critical, essentially corporate tool for importing and exporting goods. The BRIC strategy. The surge aligns essentially with Russia's recent pivot to digital ruble for BRICS trade. The ministry noted that while the CBDC is a long-term goal for sovereign trade and private cryptocurrencies, essentially like Bitcoin and USDT, are currently be essentially filling the liquidity gap for private enterprises, Russia's massive mining sector, now the world's second largest contributions heavily to this turnover, miners are increasingly selling their rewards directly to Russian importers, creating a self-sustaining closed loop crypto economy essentially within its own country. This is also a glimpse of why Swift, no matter how much Swift tries to become this crypto empire, this blockchain empire, no matter how many times Swift tries to partner up, do more testing, create more platforms for the blockchain sector, no matter what it does, Swift will always be seen as a political tool. Russia will never forget who really sanctioned them. Yes, the United States sanctioned Russia, but it was also the SWIFT platform that essentially is politicized to also sanction their payment systems. So these countries will never forget who really essentially blocked their country's payments. The word came from essentially the United States, but the actions were taken by SWIFT. This is why, honestly, I say the world, essentially the retail section, will see SWIFT as some sort of a messaging standard. And in reality, it's just a political tool that goes around and sanctions countries. And countries that haven't been sanctioned by SWIFT, essentially in terms of their payment systems, they also see their future ahead where, if they do something wrong, SWIFT one day will turn around. Sorry, you're sanctioned. The United States said you're sanctioned, therefore you're sanctioned, therefore your payments won't work. So on that basis, this is why I always say, no matter what SWIFT does, no matter who SWIFT partners up with, no matter how much SWIFT tries to bash on the XRP ledger or XRP itself, anybody, if people can remember what the two members of SWIFT said, nobody's going to use XRP because they're threatened by XRP. That's why they said those words. Whereas Ripple and the XRP ledger, nobody can sanction them. Russia, China, any country you could think of on this planet could use the XRP ledger, and there's no sanctions involved. But SWIFT, doesn't matter who they use, they will always be known as the political tool they are. And that's their downfall. Not because they were slow and expensive, it's because they were a political tool. Metrics. The macro, essentially, picture of geopolitical and domestic impacts. Let's talk about that for now. So, also from Russia. Data estimated daily turnover of $650 million plus primary use, essentially case cross-border B2B settlements, key assets, focused Bitcoin, essentially, and stablecoins, USDT, regulatory status, regulated for international trade, restricted for domestic retail payments. Global versus local. The Ministry of Finance of Russia reaffirmed its two-tier approach. While it encourages $650 million daily flows for international trade and mining, it also continues to maintain strict controls on using crypto for buying a cup of coffee domestically, preferring that the digital ruble for essentially for internal retail transactions. Russia still wants to use crypto. The finance minister is saying, yes, we still want to use crypto, but we want to use crypto for international trade. And inside the country of Russia, we want CBDCs to be used by the retail section. Now, to manage this high volume, Russia is implementing a mandatory reporting framework for exchanges and virtual asset service providers and operators, mirroring the high transparency models being proposed by India and the United Kingdom. And the reason they're doing this is for tax purposes. This news breaks essentially as Mark and essentially Cathie Woods discuss the nationalization of crypto rails. If Russia is successfully moving $650 million a day outside of the SWIFT system, it provides a real world case study for why other nations are exploring street reserves and natively on-chain banking. As BlackRock and JP Morgan watch these non-Western flows grow, the pressure on the US to pass the Clarity Act intensifies, which is true. If the US is watching the world right now, as they always do, and they're seeing Russia is $650 million a day in crypto payments are being used for international trades. Hong Kong is using crypto for international trades. India is using it. Brazil is using it. Essentially, Singapore is using it. Japan is using it. The EU is moving forward. Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the list goes on. The UAE, they're all using it. Then the US is going to go, okay, now we're falling behind again, the same way we were during Biden's administration, which makes zero sense because this is Trump's administration, which means we should be moving forward, not standing still, which is, genuinely going to put pressure on the US to get these regulations passed faster. So pressure coming from international, essentially, internationally onto the US is actually going to be helping the US pass these regulations faster. The Russian data proves that the utility era of crypto is already fully operational. It is just happening on different rails depending on the geography. Which essentially, this is essentially what's happening from Russia's perspective. $650 million is just a study case, you could pretty much say. It shows you that the world is moving away from SWIFT. If they're capable of doing $650 million a day on international trade, who really needs SWIFT? And it shows other countries that are using SWIFT's payment system, you don't really need SWIFT anymore. Now, Aminico Brands is what we're going to talk about next on essentially tonight's label. International news again for the crypto sector. And, another perspective of what's happening essentially in terms of the crypto space outside the US. Aminico Brands, the global powerhouse in the metaverse and gaming venture capital, officially announced it has cleared a significant regulatory hurdle by securing a full license from the UAE. The UAE is handing out licenses left, right, and center to all these crypto companies to grow its market space. It really is, aiming for the target of, as the US said, they want to become the capital of cryptocurrencies. It seems like the UAE is, taking that title for themselves. The license enables Aminico Brands to offer a wide range of virtual asset services, including investment, advisory, and broker deal activities directly from its essentially Dubai hub. The hurdle cleared, unlike many firms that remain in the initial approval or pre-operating stages, Aminico has essentially moved into the full market, essentially product FMP phase. This essentially allows them to scale their ecosystems, which includes hundreds of Web3 projects to institutional and retail investors across the Middle East. Aminico co-founder Yet essentially noted the Dubai's clear technology-first regulatory framework makes it a neutral, essentially, footstep for the next phase of the digital property rights revolution. This move is seen as a strategic hedge against the ongoing yield wars that are happening right now inside the United States. This isn't good. The same thing that was happening on the Biden administration, where regulations weren't being passed and crypto companies were moving overseas, is happening one more, essentially again, but at a much more slower pace. And again, guess who is essentially stopping the crypto space from growing? Is it the Republican Party? No. Is it Trump? No. Is it Trump's administration? No. Who is it then? The people Biden left behind, which is essentially a Democratic Party that it should essentially Biden should have taken its entire Democratic Party with it. 100% because they are the only ones throwing hurdles again for the crypto space. There's the midterms coming up inside the US, essentially, in terms of voting. If you are somebody inside the crypto space and you live inside the United States and the midterms come up and you have to vote for essentially who is going to be leading your states, and you're seeing somebody who's a Democrat and you're seeing somebody who's a Republican, if you are inside the crypto sector, then you should be voting Republic. Otherwise, if you vote for Democratic politicians to lead your states in the midterms, and essentially the crypto space goes through more hurdles because Democrats won't vote in favor of the crypto space, and the prices of crypto projects go further down, and you start wondering to yourself, why is crypto dropping again? I'm frustrated on this and that, and you voted Democrat on midterms, you were one of the reasons why crypto dropped. If you are somebody inside the crypto space and the midterms come up and you have a chance to vote pro crypto or anti crypto, and you vote anti crypto, and later on more voting happens and the crypto space can't move forward because Democrats are still voting against the crypto space, and you're a crypto holder and you voted Democrat, which is anti crypto, then you're also to blame for why crypto isn't growing. Honestly, if the midterms come up and you vote Democrat and the crypto market goes down because of more voting issues, because Democrats won't vote for the crypto space, and you're wondering to yourself and you're frustrated looking at the crypto price, why is it not passing through? Why is the Clarity Act not passing through? Why is the Genius Act not passing through? You are also one of the reasons why it didn't pass through. It's just something that needed to be said. And there are, to be fair, Democrat politicians out there who are pro crypto, but the majority of the Republican Party is pro crypto. The minority is pro crypto in Democratic politicians. The majority are negative against the crypto space. And their main talking point is crypto. Trump's family should not be earning money from crypto, as if anybody cares, as I said previously. Trump is a billionaire. I couldn't care less if Trump makes another $200 million for himself, as long as he passes the crypto regulations. So at least we can also feed on that. Whereas the Democratic Party just make money for themselves and they couldn't care less about anybody else. And they say the truth hurts. If you don't like it, it is the truth though. Honestly, midterms come up, you vote the other way, and the crypto space goes down because of voting issues, and you're wondering and you're frustrated. You're the reason why it went down, because you voted for the wrong party. You didn't vote for your future. You voted by the propaganda on the media. Now, the licensing essentially of that of the utility area that's going on right now in the Middle East, the whole category of utility area. The licensing comes at a time when Dubai essentially is aggressively competing with Hong Kong. As I said previously, right now it's not US versus the rest of the world in terms of who gets that title of the capital of cryptocurrencies. The race has shifted from the US aiming for the title of cryptocurrencies because the Democratic politicians, as I said, are throwing so many hurdles. The title has shifted to essentially the UAE versus Hong Kong of who gets the title of cryptocurrencies. That's how bad it's getting, where the title shifted from the US becoming the capital of cryptocurrencies to the UAE and Hong Kong aiming for that title now. This is why I'm seeing midterms come up and you voted the other way and you look at the price of, XRP or XLM, 6 months, 7 months down the line, you're looking at the prices on the crypto market space and you're going, I'm frustrated. Why is it not going up? Why is the Clarity Act not passing? Why is the essentially Genius Act not passing? And you voted Democrat, you're the reason why it's not passing. VRA. This approval essentially reinforces VRA's reputation as a gold standard for bespoke crypto regulations following essentially similar recent approvals for victory. So what's happening, in terms of UAE and Hong Kong, they are genuinely aiming for that title of capital of cryptocurrencies, which I wished the US was aiming for that title. Unfortunately, there's too much back and forth going on there. For the broader market, this isn't just a corporate win for Aminico brands. It's a sign that Web3 gaming and digital identity are being recognized as a legitimate regulated financial sector. Safe harbor for ventures, many of Aminico brands' portfolios and companies are expected to use the Dubai hub as a safe harbor to launch tokenized products that might otherwise face unilateral controls, scrutiny in the UK, and or the SEC pressure in the US. The smart money signals investors are viewing this as a primary reason for the recent jump in Coinbase shares and the resilience of institutional interest. While essentially Mike McClone warns of a recession, the physical, essentially, and legal infrastructure for the digital economy is being built at a record speed in the UAE. It's UAE versus Hong Kong now. It used to be the US versus the entire world of who gets the title of crypto capital. Now it's UAE versus Hong Kong. And it's all because of Democratic politicians still voting essentially against the crypto space, still going against the Genius Act, still going against essentially the Clarity Act. Now, moving on from that to Silicon Valley Bank. Before we talk about Silicon Valley Bank, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we go straight into the next news. Let's see where we're at. And don't forget, before I make millions, okay, we're here, I think. I signed up to the stacks. Thank you so much, Jason, for subscribing to my Substacks. Miles, how long? I have to hold XRP if I have 20,000 before I make millions. Consider available change. Lol, Swift is not as slick as they think. Facts. XRP and XLM. Let's go. Facts. Shelley says, and don't forget how the Epstein friends tried to stop Ripple. Facts. Epstein and his friends did really try their best to stop Ripple. They threw everything at them to suppress it, but nothing can stop this freight train coming and moving forward. Just need to regs and adoption. Absolutely facts. Everybody is also bashing Trump because of the whole Epstein situation. Let's not forget one major critical point. Since the beginning of Epstein's island situation until now, who has been running the show in the United States of America? Since the beginning of Epstein until now, who has been running the majority of the show inside the United States? Democratic leaders. Every president we pretty much had from the Democratic side correlates with Epstein being the power that he had. So, interesting enough, it was Democratic leaders since the beginning of Epstein until now, pretty much. Twice you could say Trump won the race. But other than that, all of them were Democratic politicians. The majority of the House was Democratic. Essentially at Epstein's peak of traumatizing people, you know who I'm talking about, Epstein traumatizing people. At Epstein's peak, who was leading the United States? Was it Trump? Because for some reason, everybody hates Trump when it comes to Epstein. But if you look at the bigger picture, who was running the show when Epstein was at its peak? Was it the Democratic Party that was leading America, or was it the Republican Party? The facts point to the Democratic Party was leading the show. But for some reason, everybody hates Trump when it comes to Epstein. I'm not saying Trump is some sort of a saint, because he isn't. But look at who was running the show from the beginning of Epstein to its peak. Who was running America? Was it Democrats or Republicans? And then you'll know who to point the finger at, because it sure as hell ain't Trump to point the finger to. All the facts. And if anybody says, oh, well, so what? Democrats were leading America while Epstein was doing everything he was doing. If you're going to stand there with a straight face and tell me that presidents of the United States from the Democratic side didn't know anything about Epstein while Epstein was doing what he was doing at his peak, you're more blinded than I thought. But it's very odd. Everybody's pointing the finger at Trump when it comes to Epstein. Nobody's pointing the finger at the people who were in charge during the beginning of Epstein to his peak. And it was all the Democratic politicians. They led everything. The House, the Senate, everything. The presidents, they were in charge. Beginning of Epstein to his peak. All facts. No need to defend the Dems on this one. And again, as I said, Trump is no saint in any sort of scenario. No politician is, to be fairly honest, or no businessman, no businesswoman is, to be fairly honest. But you got to know who to point the finger at if you really want to point the finger. And tomorrow, how will we vote? It could create an exclusion of the poorest. It's just about, when it comes to the midterms, who do you want to vote for? When it comes to the midterms, what do you want to vote for? When it comes to midterms, do you want to vote for your crypto portfolio? Do you want to vote in favor of yourself? Or do you want to vote for media propaganda? Honestly, because if I had a vote, if I was an American citizen and I had a vote, I'm voting in favor of my crypto portfolio if I had one. I'm voting. If I had a crypto portfolio, I would vote in favor of my crypto portfolio in the midterm elections. Because you got to remember, when you go to vote, you're voting for yourself. Who's going to benefit you? Not who's going to imaginary benefit the country, because that never works. That never works. Just vote in favor of who is going to benefit you. And you think if a Democratic leader is going to benefit you and you're a crypto holder, and the crypto prices go down because the regulations won't pass, because the Democrats won't vote in favor of it, and you get frustrated because you're still seeing XRP at low points, or XLM, or XDC, or HBAR, or AVAX, then you're part of the problem as well. You're also part of the problem as well. So if you vote Democrat and the crypto markets still don't pick up because we don't get the votes we need for regulations and you get frustrated, you have nobody to blame but yourself. You've got to vote in favor. If you're inside the crypto space, vote in favor of yourself. It's not that difficult. Vote in favor of yourself. Titles could change hands from UAE to Hong Kong, yet the prices keep dropping. Titles can change, yes, and the prices yet keep on dropping. And you know why they're dropping, as I'm just saying. The biggest market space in the world is still going head to head in terms of should we pass the regulation. And the only regulation we have passed, the Genius Act, still went back to the drawing board because the Democrats weren't happy with it. Titles. Zero assets in the US. I need a list of recommended countries to move to. I'm done with the US. Monaco, in my opinion, Monaco is a great, amazing place to live if you want to live. If you want to later on move to any country, Monaco is an amazing place. Switzerland is also great too. The UAE is also good to go as well. A few Middle Eastern countries are good to go. Georgia is also a good place to go to as well. And AG is what I would say, Stormy, to that. These places are good to go. Zero assets, Philippines, Thailand, you go Vietnam. And the AG Bondi was over Florida when Epstein was in full effect back in the early 2000s. Miles, do you think Epstein could be alive? Yesterday, I watched a YouTube explaining Maxine, is not the person that's been in prison. She was analyzing her face in regards to her eyes and nose. I don't know about that one, I'll be honest. Amen to that, Miles. Let's go, Stormy. Now, Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, now operating under its rebuilt post 2023 identity. If anybody remembers what happened to Silicon Valley Bank, the whole depegging situation also of Luna, issued a sweeping report via Coindesk declaring 2026 as the definitive year of integration. Silicon Valley Bank has said that this year is the essentially year of integration. In other words, crypto integration into the financial sector, also being known as the year of essentially utility era. The report argues that the US versus them era of traditional finance and TradFi and decentralized finance DeFi has officially ended and replaced by a singular unified financial stack. The key pillars of integration thesis. The death of Celio, SVB analysts suggest that the utility era has matured to a point where crypto is no longer a fringe asset class, but the primary software layer for money. So many crypto CEOs, so many behemoth CEOs inside the institutional sector are now calling this year the utility era. This aligns with Larry Fink's vision, and everybody knows Larry Fink, vision of every financial asset eventually being tokenized on a common blockchain. Venture capital shift. SVB notes a massive rotation in VC funding. Money is no longer flowing into yet another exchange, but into a malware and interoperability layers that connect legacy bank ledgers with public blockchains like the XRP ledger and Ethereum. Corporate treasury adoption. The bank reports a 40-year-over-year increase in corporations holding stablecoins for real-time B2B settlements. SVB highlights that firms are using these rails to bypass the friction of the 1970s era, banking plumbing, currently being challenged by Russia's $650 million per year also turnover, which we talked about. SVB is positioning itself as a leader in on-chain banking, building essentially a bridge services for startups that need to essentially move seamlessly between fiat and tokenized assets, a move also mirrored by HSBC's new digital gilt inside United Kingdom. SVB Report Act essentially acts as a connective tissue for the week's biggest stories. The recruitment surge. It also explains why BlackRock and Goldman Sachs are on the hiring spree. I shared to everyone a few days back that essentially Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, BlackRock, Citibank, or right now are essentially on a hiring spree. Who are they hiring? Blockchain developers or people who understand blockchain so that they can create or essentially advance the departments they have within themselves. Why would these behemoths be so focused on hiring essentially people who understand blockchain for their institutions? Because they know where the world is shifting to. The era of speculation and crypto monies for criminals has completely ended. And what's happening behind the scenes is, not only are they creating these departments, not only are they hiring people essentially at a rapid pace, the licensings and everything else that comes with it. There's so much happening behind the scenes. There's such a huge foundation that's being built. The price doesn't reflect it, but the foundation is being built. The Dubai and Hong Kong licensing scenario as well. Discussions by Aminika Brands, Victory FinTech, which as we discussed today, where the biggest Web3 players are seeking the same regulatory rigorous as banks right now. The counter narratives that are also happening as well. And according to SVB, the success of this year depends on three critical unlocks. So this is what they released to CoinDesk. Three critical unlocks. It depends on these three, according to SV Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, of essentially, the utility era. So, legislative harmony. The passage of the Clarity Act to settle the yield wars. That's number one. The Clarity Act gets passed this year, according to Silicon Valley Bank. That's one green light. The Clarity Act is one green light. I've been saying the Clarity Act getting passed for the last 2 years is a green light as well. Honestly, it really is. That's the first green light for this year. The second green light is identity on chain. The adoption of unilateral control standards that allows for KYC without compromising decentralization. KYC is incredibly important. We can't operate as much as the crypto space has to say essentially decentralized, but there has to be elements of centralization. And some people might say, you're crazy for saying that. If we don't have elements of centralization, then crypto will be used on a criminal level as well. I'm not saying it is being used or so much crypto is being used for criminals. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is the reason why they're trying to attach IDs to payments, yes, it tramples on the point of privacy. And nobody likes the idea of their privacy being essentially, compromised by any sort of government or any sort of third party companies or institutions, so on. Nobody likes the idea of the government peeking their big nose into their life. But also, what they're arguing is if we don't have no centralization and it's just complete decentralization, then it just becomes a criminal's hotspot. It becomes a criminal's playground because no ID is attached to any sort of money, and people could do, bad things using cryptocurrencies. And there is quite a bit happening. Not saying only crypto, cash is also being used for bad things around the world. There's more, bad money than there is good money operating around the world on paper, to be fairly honest as well. So, but that's why they're arguing the point of there has to be some sort of element of centralization so that, if it's just fully decentralization, it will become a criminal's hotspot, playground inside the crypto sector because nobody knows who they are and they could be using their crypto money to buy and do bad things. I'm not going to explain what those bad things are and what occurs and so on. You could picture it for yourself what money could be used for if it goes the wrong way. Cross-chain sentiment. Cross-chain settlements. That was the second one. This is the third one. Cross-chain settlement. The move away from bridges towards native interoperability, layer zeros and zero blockchains. Yes, but also the XRP ledger as well. These are pretty much the three things that needs to essentially get a green light. Cross-border payments needs a green light. The Clarity Act is the first thing that needs a green light. And also, the line between decentralization and centralization. There has to be a balance between decentralization and centralization. If it's just centralization, then that's bad because we have no privacy. If it's just decentralization, that's also bad because then it becomes a criminal's playground. There has to be a thin line between decentralization and centralization. A balance of both is technically what we need. Fully decentralization, even though you might be an exceptional, great human being, there are people out there who aren't great human beings. And if we don't have elements of centralization, then money will go towards bad things that we will never know about, and governments will have difficulty tracking. And then bad things can happen around the world using crypto money. And we don't want that to happen. But also, we don't want full centralization because we want privacy up to a certain extent as well. So we want a line between centralization and decentralization. That balance that just fits perfectly is what they're both sides essentially of the argument is pretty much for crypto companies and essentially governments. There has to be a line in the middle. And crypto companies are saying, we don't want full centralization. We understand why you don't want to go full decentralization zone. So there has to be a line in the middle. But those are pretty much the three green lights announced by Silicon Valley Bank to CoinDesk. There needs to be a Clarity Act passed this year. There needs to be a line between centralization and decentralization in the middle, and also cross-border payments. Those three things are green lighted this year. Silicon Valley Bank is pretty much saying this is it. This is the year of integration. This is the year of utility era. Those three things passed. Clarity Act will also just pass the cross-border payments as well. Now, Ledger and Trezor update. Okay, this is something that everybody should know about, and I'm going to share it with you right now because you really need to understand this. Actually, before I share it to you, let's go start the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we'll straight into the next news. But the next news is very, very important for anybody holding cold storage wallets. So let's go inside the comment section first. This was happening there. Just in case if I missed any comments. They have photos of Epstein alive. I saw them in X and they are not AI generated. Let's get on to it. Now, let's get Stormy. If you are somebody that owns a Ledger or a Trezor, or if you are somebody that owns any cold storage wallet right now, things are getting heated up, okay? If you own cryptocurrencies or if you trade cryptocurrencies, do not essentially boast about your crypto holdings online on social media. Now, there's a lot of people out there who would say, look at me. I just made $10,000 on this trade, or I just made $1 million on this trade, or so on. Or even showing your crypto portfolio to friends and family could also end bad for you as well, because you don't know beyond your friends and family circle who else could maybe find out that you own a certain amount of crypto, essentially cryptocurrency, that could end bad for you as well. The situation is getting heated up. It's not just, back then it was just emails and texts, but people said don't click on links if you receive an email or a text or a DM. And things have advanced from emails, texts, and DMs to, people breaking into other people's houses and trying to force their crypto seed phrases out of them because they know who you are due to your social media presence of you boasting about how much you've made today in your crypto trades. Keeping your mouth shut is the best thing you could do inside the crypto space. If you show off and something happens to you, you were asking for it. I'll be very honest, as bad as that might sound, but if you show off inside the crypto space of how much you're making in terms of profits, and you're just making yourself a target for these criminals. Also, what's happening on the other side of the spectrum as well is people are receiving fake hardware. So we went from fake emails from Ledger, Trezor, and Tangent, people were receiving, fake text messages people were receiving, fake customer support messages people were receiving, fake direct message people were receiving, fake adverts people were seeing inside the crypto space, to now people receiving fake Ledger devices to their houses, or fake Trezor devices to their houses, or even Tangent devices, where people would actually receive some sort of a letter from Trezor or Ledger saying your hardware wallet has become compromised. We've sent you another essentially wallet. Use this Ledger wallet to protect your devices. And that wallet was designed by scammers. So they've took it to a whole nother level where they're sending hardware wallets to people's houses now. So you really, really, really have to understand that, you have to be so vigilant inside of this space that if you're not vigilant enough, you could be caught out. One, by showing off, you should never do that. Two, by sharing your portfolio pictures or something to family and friends. I wouldn't suggest it in any sort of a way. The same way you don't go around and show your bank balance to your friends and family is the exact same reason why you shouldn't go around and show your crypto portfolios to friends and family. And I'm not saying your friends and families are all criminals in any sort of way. I'm not saying that whatsoever. As I said, the news of you having so much in crypto could spread beyond your friends and family circle, and that's when the issue arises. There has been so many upticks in essentially people getting, taken away for the amount of crypto that they have, not by the government, but by bad people. They'll just break into your house in the middle of the night and force the seed phrases out of you, or even take you with them and then force the seed phrases out of you. It's on an uprise right now. Stop showing off, stop showing your portfolio to friends and family. Keep your assets safe. Don't click on any links. And if you receive a hardware wallet from Ledger, Trezor, or Tangent, it's not from them. No company in this world will give you anything free. Anything free in life always comes with a catch. Always remember that. That hasn't changed. That famous quote of "there's nothing free in life" is facts. Okay? If you receive a hardware wallet from Tangent, Trezor, or Ledger, and with a letter saying your wallet's become compromised, we've sent you another free wallet, that is a scam. Don't fall for it. That's something I just need to share with everybody because just in case you do get caught out, now you won't because you know about it. Now, XRP is what we're talking about next on tonight's live. XRP outruns Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is what essentially happened when XRP started picking up. Now, there was also data released essentially from CoinShares and CoinGlass regarding, the amount of money the amount of liquidity that's flowing into XRP compared to flowing into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, hang on a minute, XRP's price point is nowhere near Ethereum and Bitcoin. That's not what you're looking at. You're looking at in terms of amount of liquidity entering while it wasn't entering the other two. So, a market-wide recovery saw XRP significantly outperforming both Bitcoin and Ethereum, according to CoinDesk. The asset surge is a direct result of aggressive dip buying by investors who are betting essentially on a massive shift in US and crypto policy and Ripple's expanding institutional utility. So, key drivers of XRP's outperforming, essentially the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everybody else. The Girlinghouse effect. XRP's momentum accelerated following the news that Ripple's CEO Brad Girlinghouse joined the CFTC innovation community. That helped XRP rise. Traders are viewing this as a signal that XRP is a primary candidate for regulated utility moat in the US, essentially in the US market space. The CBDC narrative, that's also helping XRP. So if you want yourself, every time the market essentially goes on the upside, why does XRP go higher than the rest? Why does XRP, look like it has some sort of rocket fuel compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum, everybody else when the market goes on the upside? It's because there's many factors in play of why buyers see XRP for its potentials in this integration utility era we're in right now for this year. The CBDC narrative. While Bitcoin is being viewed through essentially the Mike McGlone recession canary lens, XRP is benefiting from Mark's viral comments that the asset could be ordered for use in national banking infrastructure. So, whereas Bitcoin is losing its momentum title of digital gold, XRP is gaining its own title inside the financial sector. Institutional accumulation. Unlike broader altcoin graveyards mentioned essentially, XRP has seen sustained inflows. This attributed to the recent Aviva Investors partnership and the anticipation of spot XRP, essentially spot XRP ETFs, which analysts believe in the now is essentially a when, not if scenario following CFTC news. Stablecoin synergy. The development of RRUSD and its potential, essentially, role in the White House upcoming Yield Summit has positioned XRP as more than just a bridge currency. It is now seen as the core plumbing for yield bearing regulated digital dollars. So, market comparison 24-hour performance. XRP up 8.4%, leading the top 10 assets. Bitcoin 1.2, Ethereum essentially behind by 2.1, and so on. Every time the market honestly does a U-turn and goes back up, XRP seems like it has some sort of rocket fuel attached to it. And it's because buyers see that as a better buy than whatever else is available in the market space. And that's why essentially, as we talked about a little bit earlier on, what Shelley even said that Grayscale's essentially client base or seeing XRP, XRP is the second thing essentially they're talking about of behind Bitcoin. Typically, it goes what they're talking about is Bitcoin and Ethereum and then Solana and then if XRP is somewhere there. Now they're talking about XRP. They're seeing that as the number one purchase because this is the year of regulations. Crypto projects that will essentially benefit from regulations will do the best. Which crypto projects are that? Ones that are regulated, ones that have licensing, ones that have been pushing their way into the financial sector. So, the 2026 market is increasingly rewarding assets with tangible government or institutional backing. As I said for the longest time, it's not about who's the fastest. There was a time period inside the crypto space where certain crypto projects were popping out of nowhere, going, "We're faster than XRP, we're cheaper than XRP, and that means that we're better than XRP." And there were influencers out there that were, sharing these random crypto projects out there that were, some crypto projects that are still around and people are and there's a new crypto project going on right now called Kato, and there's so many people saying, "Oh, Kato is the next XRP." I'm sorry, how in the hell in 2026 right now we are still discussing the idea of this is the next XRP? Really? In 2026 we're still discussing the idea of this is the next XRP when Ripple has 40 to 50 billion dollar valuation, multiple licensings, multiple purchases of businesses in the financial sector, spending billions of dollars advancing, applying to become a bank, XRP playing the heartbeat of Ripple. We're still discussing the idea of this is the next XRP. What idiot out there is still suggesting this? I'm really confused on. If you're an influencer out there and you're still, tooting about this is the next XRP, just stop it because you're embarrassing yourself and your viewership. I'm just being very honest because this is crypto project around Kato. This is the next XRP. There is no XRP. It's XRP full stop. That's the XRP. There's no next XRP. This is the new XRP. None of that. It's XRP full stop. And nothing will compare to it inside the financial sector. Full stop. Because comparing, as I said, Ripple, who's making XRP the heartbeat of essentially everything they do, compared to a project developed by a bunch of developers. Comparing licensings, contracts, billion-dollar deals, there's just no comparison. So just stop it. If you're somebody out there that's saying this is the next XRP, this is the new XRP, just stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. Let it go. Now, as we go along, The 2026 essentially market is increasingly rewarding assets with tangible government or institutional backing. Hence why XRP keeps on getting rocket fuel, because it's the only one seen to have actual backing from the financial sector and actually have a license. While Bitcoin remains that digital gold, XRP is carving out a niche as digital infrastructure. As Silicon Valley noted this year of integration, and XRP's performance suggests that investors believe Ripple is the furthest along in integrating with the legacy financial system. If the Clarity Act moves forward in the Senate this March, many analysts essentially expect this outperformance to widen the $2 trillion institutional unlock, prioritize and complement through essentially Asian market space. As I said, and as you can tell, essentially from Silicon Valley Bank and from CoinDesk, Bitcoin known as the digital gold, but yet it struggles to react like gold and follows tech stocks only. XRP is actually essentially carving out its own title, which essentially the title for XRP now is digital infrastructure. It's genuinely going to change the world. And if you still can't see now, 2026, and you're, still in 2026 advocating for this is the next XRP or this is the new XRP, it's embarrassing. Just stop it. Honestly, it's embarrassing. Just stop it. If you want to compare crypto projects, compare something else. Because if it comes to the financial sector, it's like comparing a Bugatti, which is XRP, to anything else around it. There's just no comparison. On that note, and as I said, doesn't matter who's faster or who's cheaper. It's about contracts, licensings, politics, and everything else that comes with it. Institutions couldn't care less if there's a project out there that's a millisecond faster than XRP in payments, or essentially, or 1 cent cheaper. They honestly couldn't care less. If you think they care, you're a moron. On that note, we have reached the endings of tonight's live. This was the CMF Live Show. This is episode 442 of the CMF Live Show. The CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. The disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Tune in for tomorrow's live show at 10 p.m. London time onwards. Before we do go, obviously, let's go inside the comment section first. And as I said previously, if you want to share this live show, for some reason, Restream and essentially X have some maintenance issues going on right now. Click the 3 buttons. CMF members, if you want to share this live show, if anybody else wants to share this live show, you have to click the 3 buttons at the top of the live show on X. Click the 3 buttons and click share to profile. That's the only way to share this live show. So if you enjoy this live show, share it with everyone inside the crypto space so that they can also have a better idea. 3 buttons at the top, share the profile. That's the way to do it. Before we go, let's go inside the comment section, obviously, as always. Must be foremost now, since XRP ETFs have been approved, yet the price really didn't move. Well, in this 4 months, what happened? We had the massive government shutdown. Clarity Act hasn't been passed. The Genius Act went back to jury boards. Why? Democratic politicians. Democrats caused essentially the government shutdown. Democrats caused the Genius Act going back to the jury board. Democrats also caused essentially the Clarity Act not being passed. So if you're wondering to yourself why things are moving along, Democrats are the main issue. This is why I say midterms comes along and you're someone inside the crypto space and you vote Democrat in the midterms and the crypto space doesn't go up because we can't pass the Genius Act, we can't pass the Clarity Act, we can't pass anything inside the United States because nobody will get along, and you're a crypto person and you vote Democrat in the midterms, crypto doesn't move, you're one of the reasons why it didn't move. These influences either are BTC and ETH started to move up after a month when they were approved in ETFs. So why is XRP not moving? As you can tell, what happened straight after. These influencers are either paid or looking to make money from their viewers honestly, I agree. Absolutely. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Let's go, JP. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. You inspire people to do the live show. You inspire people to do a live show by sharing their expertise and offerings and services that would help them to do their daily lives. Thanks for the discipline you show us, for giving this motivation in us. Carl, thank you so much for the kind words, and see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thank you again for the live show. Let's go, Carl. See you tomorrow, same time as usual, which is why I and the CMF hold you in such a high regard, sir. Thank you so much, Jolly, for the kind words as well. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live, as always. Thanks, Miles, and have a good night. See you tomorrow, same time. Let's go, Autistic. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. And what Monica Long said, and as to define XLP 2026, she stated that XLP 2026, institutional adoption at scale. Let's effing go. Thanks, Miles. Great insight as usual. See you tomorrow, CMF. Let's go, Shelly. Absolutely facts. What Monica Long said as well. Night, Miles and CMF. See you all tomorrow. Joe, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great life, Miles. Good night. Comatose, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great live, Miles. Thank you. Good night, Miles and CMF. Let's go. Jason, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night. All Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live. Great job. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. And thank you for the $5 donation as well, brother. Once again, thanks, Miles. Thanks for another great live, Miles. We'll see you again tomorrow, mate. Let's go, Addy. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles and CMF family. See you guys tomorrow night. Let's go funky. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live, Walter. Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow, same time as usual. CMF members, if you want to like and retweet this live show, the only way to do it is click the three dots at the top. Click share to profile to share this live show. Three dots, share the profile. That's how you share this live show. Thanks so much to everyone who has done that. If you haven't done that, take 5 seconds to do that. If you're watching on YouTube, just drop a like. If you followed and subscribed during this live show, thank you so much, and welcome to the CMF family. And also check out my Substacks as well. I essentially produce one article a day on Substacks, completely free to go read it. Essentially, if you want to go read it, I essentially pin them on X on my profile. Go and check them out. Good night, Miles, and God bless. Khalid. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. See everybody tomorrow for episode 443